Welcome to Rebel Chaser. My name is Gail, and I have a video for you from Judge Sala in Michigan. She is holding a removal hearing. And it's interesting. I'll let you guys watch.
The request for removal made by the department. This is a continued prelim from last week as it relates to Mr. Stephen Johnson specifically. Ms. Malika Rembert is present with us today, although she absolutely has a right to be here for purposes of the process of her case in particular. She did enter a plea and is set for disposition on November 25th. And the names of our participants, please, and then I'll let y'all review what's been happening with regard to a brief conversation pre-record about exhibits.
Good afternoon, Nicole Underwood, legal guardian ad litem for the minor children.
Ms. Sasha Thomas, counsel for the department.
Chris Cornett from the department.
Michael Brooks, I represent the father, Mr. Johnson.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, sorry, Your Honor. My name is Stephen Johnson. I'm the father.
Michael McFarland, representing Malika Rembert. Malika, please tell the judge your name.
Malika Rembert.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's revisit the issue about a couple of exhibits that started happening before we got on record. Ms. Thomas?
Thank you, Honor. Mr. Brooks had provided us with photos of Mr. Rembert's home. We did have a chance to review those, I believe, at our last hearing date, which was on 11/7. Not sure if we ever got on the record for that. That day was quite a blur for all of us, I believe. But I do recall reviewing those, and I believe that Ms. Underwood has also seen them. And then additionally, the department, given that this is a contested preliminary hearing, or removal hearing, the department did print off photos as well of the conditions of the home at the time that the petition was filed or the investigation was happening. So we allowed for a moment for the other attorneys to look at those as well.
Yes, I do want to clarify, it's not really the prelim. We accomplished that piece. I think it's just more the removal questions. Okay, any additional comments about the exhibits or anything else before we begin, Mr. Brooks?
Well, I showed them mine. She showed me hers. I don't think either of us have any objections.
To the admission of the proposed exhibit A from your client?
My clients, and I have no objection to the submission of her photos.
Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, for purposes of the removal hearing, I would call Mr. Korniak would call him as a witness to be sworn in and then lay foundation for the photos and admit them through his testimony.
That's how the only way I would agree, Your Honor. I was going to suggest the same.
All right, very well. Mr. Brooks would like his 14 photos admitted. Do you have any objections to that?
The only thing I would just ask for the dates of when they were taken.
Would you like?
So I maybe lay a foundation before we admit those.
So we'll just table that request, Mr. Brooks. I'll hold on to them. I have not looked through them other than to count them. I think there's 14.
Well, I think it would help.
I think the
Because
date
I
is
got
on
it.
Saturday.
No, sir, don't do that.
Sorry.
I would prefer to get that established before we start, because I intend to question the witnesses about to go out about my exhibits as well.
All right, Deputy Ames, why don't you return this packet over to Mr. Brooks?
This would just take less than a minute.
I think if you want to impeach the witness on those, that's up to you. Ms. Thomas technically goes first with her presentation. So there's no stipulation accepted at this time. So I can't look at those until and unless there's been an admission of those, and I'll let you navigate it from there. I have full confidence that you can handle it. Any other comments or issues before we get started?
No, Your Honor.
Your Honor, I guess we all met kind of back in chambers and that this was not scheduled today. Or I don't know if it was or wasn't specifically, but my client is joining us by Zoom. I understand that she does have some treatment appointments to make. So I'd like to at least ask her if she can stay for an hour at least, or half an hour, 45 minutes, or what her opinion is, if I can ask.
Mr. McFarland, you should have accomplished that prior to beginning our hearing this afternoon. I'd like to get started. I know Ms. Underwood has things to get to as well. So why don't we just try to make the best use of our time as we can?
Well, why I'm saying this for the record is that she wasn't given notice of this, Your Honor, so I want to make sure that she has any time constraints.
She's had the same notice that the rest of us did, frankly. So I'm going to deny that at this time. Ms. Thomas, your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Call Mr. Cornack.
Mr. Cornick, come on up to the witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
But there's a Kleenex for your cup.
Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Thomas, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Cornack, can you say how you are familiar with this family?
Well, I was assigned this current investigation the 16th of last month.
Okay, and so you are a CPS investigator for the department, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and you drafted the petition that's before the court today?
I did.
Okay, and for purposes of the removal hearing, at this point in time, do you believe that during your investigation, the conditions that you found the home in pose a substantial risk of harm to the children's life, physical health, or mental well-being?
I did.
And what were those conditions that would pose such risk?
There were remnants of drugs found in the home. There was fecal matter on blankets in coolers and 2-liter bottles. The drugs that were found, the cat that was found.
Mr. Cornick, do you have photos of those conditions with you right now?
I do.
Can you hold up the photo of remnants of drugs found in the home? And I know it's a little hard for all of us to see, but we've been able to see this up close in person. Can you describe what you are stating are remnants of drugs?
The corner of a plastic baggie here, in here.
Okay, and so let the record reflect, there's a corner of a plastic baggie on what appears to be a carpeted floor. And Mr. Cornick, in the corner of those baggies, what is contained therein? Are you aware?
It was reported that
And who reported that to you?
law enforcement.
Okay. How old are these children?
They are 4, 3, and 1.
And what room was that, to the best of your knowledge?
I am not sure what room this is.
Okay. You also say there was no matter found in the home. Is there a photo that in your possession that can reflect matter or urine found in the home?
Yep.
Okay, and Mr. Cornack, what are we looking at there?
This is a blanket with a brown stain that was reported to be fecal matter.
Is that on a bed?
Yes,
And then you also mentioned a cat in the home. Do you have a photo of a cat in a cereal box on you?
I do.
Can you please show that for the record? Your Honor, please let the record reflect. There's a Captain Crunch Berries cereal box cut with what appears to be a white and gray kitten stuffed on the inside. Mr. Cornick, why do those conditions pose a risk of harm to the children?
There's health concerns, there's criminality concerns.
By any chance, at the time of the investigation or the time of removal, did you happen to do any drug screens on the children?
On the children, no.
Yeah. So we're not sure if the children came into contact with substances that may have entered their system?
No, no.
Was Mr. Johnson screened for any substances?
Yes,
And what came back positive?
it's positive for, and
Did you discuss those findings with Mr. Johnson?
yes,
And did he admit to any use?
don't know that he ever admitted.
Mr. Cornick, how did this complaint come in front of the department? Do you know who called it in?
I do.
Are you allowed? I know that sometimes it's supposed to be confidential.
It is.
Okay, was this ancillary to any criminal investigations?
Yes,
Okay. And did you or law enforcement take those photos?
law enforcement.
To the best of your knowledge, are there any criminal charges pending or will there be any? to the best of your knowledge?
I don't know if there's been a decision that has been made as far as criminal charges, one way or the other.
Were you aware as to why law enforcement was at the home of Mr. Johnson?
Yes,
Can you give us any information on that?
due to drug activities.
Just a minute. I think we need to lay a foundation for this next answer. Objection. Hearsay.
Well, the rules of evidence don't apply at a preliminary or removal hearing, and I believe the court would give it the weight appropriate for whatever Mr. Kornak says. I can ask a lay foundation a little more on that. I can try at least.
Mr. Brooks, you will also have the opportunity to cross-examine. I believe the question was simply one that was put to law enforcement about part of the investigation.
You know what? I do agree with her as far as it goes. I withdraw my objection.
Very well.
Okay, Mr. Kornak, in speaking with law enforcement, did they give you any indication why they were at the home?
Due to drug sales.
So they believe that there were drug sales happening out of that home?
Yes,
When law enforcement arrived, to the best of your knowledge, were the children home?
yes,
And was Mr. Johnson home?
yes,
Were any other adults in the home?
no,
And at this time, I know that we've already discussed Ms. Rember ancillary to this case, but at that time, was she, as the other legal parent, available to provide proper care and custody of the children?
no.
What did the department do then to safeguard the children at that point in time?
That night, or during the raid, law enforcement took the children to the maternal grandmother who lived nearby. Maternal grandmother was unable to care for the children. That's when we found the paternal grandfather and aunt who were able to care for the children.
And in Mr. Johnson's defense, he was agreeable to a safety plan with the children being with his dad?
Absolutely.
Okay. And is his father, according to the department's background checks and whatnot, is he an appropriate caregiver for the children?
Yes,
And the children have been in this safety plan for quite some time, is that fair to say?
yes,
So I believe your petition says the raid occurred on October 17th,
16.
16th, and the children have been with their grandfather since October 17th?
No, it wouldn't have been the 17th, it would have been a couple days later.
Okay. So they were with grandma for a few days and then went to grandpa?
Yes,
Okay. And has Mr. Johnson followed a safety plan in allowing the children to maintain safety at his father's home?
yes,
And are there additional supports in that home to assist grandpa in taking care of 3 little children?
yes.
Okay. And who is that individual?
The aunt,
Would that be
the children's aunt,
the children's aunt? And so is that Mr. Johnson's sister?
yes.
And does she currently reside in Michigan?
She is visiting, she's a resident of Texas.
Did the department complete clearances, background, like central registry and criminal clearances for Texas for this individual?
We were able to do CPS or the equivalent of in Texas for her, and she was clear. We weren't able to do a criminal history at this point, but we did run her on the National Offender Registry with no hit. She also has no hits in Michigan for the central registry or criminal history.
Thank you for that. And if the court were to maintain the removal of the children, do you believe that the department, I'm sorry, if the court were to remove the children today legally and give the department placing powers and authority of the children, is it the department's position to maintain the children with their grandfather and their aunt?
Yes,
Now, Mr. Kornak, you had an opportunity to look at the photos that Mr. Brooks has shown us today, correct?
I did.
And in those photos, is it fair to say that the house looks cleaner?
Yes,
And with that house being cleaner, what is the risk of harm to the children if they are not removed and put back into Mr. Johnson's care and custody today?
I still concerned about the criminality. And I would like to also see the home also, not just pictures.
Mr. Kornak, in your petition, I believe that it looks like there's a history with CPS involvement, mostly as relates to Ms. Rembert. But the children involved in that, in Ms. Rembert's CPS history, are those also the children that are legally Mr. Johnson's?
Yeah, well, Ms. Rembert has a number of children, but these 3 are hers.
And so in the past, has Mr. Johnson been an appropriate caregiver for the kids?
Yes,
And have you had any communication with him that would indicate that he doesn't know what's appropriate for children?
as far as being a parent,
Let me rephrase that, because that is a very big question. I apologize. In any of your communications with Mr. Johnson, do you have concerns about his ability to appropriately parent or safeguard his children?
I have concerns about his house, the matter.
Yeah, please see if you can turn that ringer off. It's way too close to the actual alarm also that goes off in here occasionally. Anybody else in the house?
I have concerns about the potential sales out of the home, potential criminal charges that could be pending.
Thank you. With that, Your Honor, I have no further questions of Mr. Kornack, and I would ask the court to accept the photos that he has with him today that council has been provided an opportunity to look at.
I would like the board here first.
Do you have any objections, Mr. Brooks?
Well, in light of the testimony I just heard, I do.
Okay, all right, we'll table that. Mr. McFarland, would you like to go first?
Sure. The last picture, you testified that this was found in the house. That was your testimony, correct?
At the house.
Oh, you said in, but
Okay.
so what did you see? I don't want to know what the picture is, but what did you see?
I saw the cat at the house.
Okay, where at the house?
On the side porch. There's a front door, but it's on the side of the trailer. It was on that porch near the front door.
You have no way of knowing if that cat came from in the house or whether that was a stray from the neighborhood who happened to crawl there and die, do you?
I do have an idea.
How so?
Mr. Johnson told me that it was their cat.
You say inside or outside cat?
He said it was their cat.
You have no idea what time the cat died, right?
No, I don't know what time the cat died.
Do you have any type of police test results for what you describe as allegedly?
The police tested it and it came back positive for.
I'm asking, do you have any police results?
The police results?
Do you have them physically?
I have a police report that states that.
Is that what you saw, that photo? Did you take the photo? You didn't.
I did not.
So did you see that white substance on the ground or not?
I did not.
So that's not your observation that you're describing.
It's law enforcement's observation.
Okay. And the third picture photo was a photo of what? Cat feces, right? Is what you, or of some type of feces, is what you said.
I believe so, yes.
Once again, is that what you observed or not?
It's what law enforcement has observed.
No, I'm asking, did you observe that?
No,
You have no way of knowing exactly what that is except from what they're telling you, right?
correct.
What test did they do?
Well, I think they probably could smell it.
Do you know that? I'm asking, do you know what test they did?
Do I know what test they
Yeah.
did? I don't know if they tested it.
Fine.
Matter.
Okay. Nothing further. Well, just one last thing. None of these photos, except the cat, is what you saw, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Any further objections, Mr. McFarland?
Well, the cat photo, if he's saying that's what he saw, I have no objection. But the others do not portray what he saw. And so I have a problem with the chain of custody on that. I'm objecting to those.
Thank you. Your objections go to weight rather than admissibility, especially considering the fact that for purposes of today's hearing, the rules of evidence do not apply.
Well, it's also going to admissibility because.
Mr. McFarland, I've made my ruling. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't know you were making a ruling. I didn't know
Yes.
Mr. Brooks to make an objection or not.
Well, I've made a ruling on your objection, and now I'm inviting Mr. Brooks to do his voir dire and express any objections he may have.
Sir. Who got to the apartment first, you or the police?
Police.
All right. Did you see those photos taken?
Which photos are you referring
The
to?
ones that you're submitting in evidence.
Did I see them taken? No.
So you can't tell this court whether those are accurate or inaccurate at the time the photos were taken, because you weren't there, right?
Correct.
Nor do you know what the chain of custody is on those photos. Is that correct?
I wouldn't understand what the chain of custody for photos is.
You don't know what that means?
No.
You don't know where they've been?
Where these photos have been,
Yeah,
they were sent to me by law enforcement.
from the time they were taken until they were sent to you by law enforcement. You don't know where they've been, do you?
I'm not sure I understand.
That's called the chain of custody.
I'm not understanding your question.
All right, I'll just leave it at that. I do have other questions, but both Mr. McFarland and I are objecting to the introduction of these photographs. We have no testimony as to when they were taken, who took them, whether they accurately reflect the scene as they found it, when they took the pictures, and last but not least, they have not identified a chain of custody, which may go to the weight, but my understanding of the court rules is the others that I asked do go to the question of admissibility. And for that reason, I object to their introduction.
Thank you. The objection is overruled for the same reasons, and I'll remind you, gentlemen, that you'll have ample opportunity to cross-examine and utilize the court rules during an adjudication hearing in the future, which you've already indicated that you intend to exercise that right. So for today's purposes, I obviously understand your objections, and I will give them due consideration, understanding that the rules of evidence have not been applied to vet this particular set of photos or this exhibit, but I do have to overrule your objections. Ms. Underwood, do you have any objections?
No objections.
All right, at this time then, Deputy Ames, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to receive the photos whatever photos the department would like me to look at.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is this the ones that are coming from the witness? Is this the entirety of your photos?
Yes.
I have 8. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, 8 photos will be regarded as Exhibit 1. Any other questions for your witness?
I do not have questions for Mr. Fernandez this time.
Cross-examination, Mr. McFarland.
No.
Mr. Brooks.
Sir, you have had a couple of opportunities to review photographs that I have submitted, which have not yet been admitted into evidence, but you've seen them twice, right?
Yes.
And they appear to be clear.
Clear?
Clear.
Yes.
You mentioned that the house, compared to the when you saw it, appears to be cleaner. Am I right?
Correct.
But cleaner is a relative term. It could still be a mess, but be cleaner, right?
Correct.
How clean would you say those photos appear to show the apartment?
There doesn't appear to be any safety hazards, but I would like to see it in person.
I see. There are 14 of those photos, as I recall. Is that right?
I don't know how many photos there were. I didn't count them.
There were a number of them, weren't there?
Yeah, yes.
They appeared to cover a lot of different areas of the apartment, didn't they?
It's a trailer, but yes.
Well, all right, of the trailer. Did you see any indications in any of those photos that things were not up to standard?
No,
I believe on direct examination, you said that prior to this time, you had no reason to feel Mr. Johnson should have his children removed from his home, didn't you?
I don't understand. What, could you repeat?
You said you had no problems with Mr. Johnson, no plans to remove them from his home prior to the police report.
Well, the most recent interaction I've had came from this police report. I've had prior cases with Mr. Johnson.
But you weren't removing his children as a result of them.
During those prior investigations, I did not remove his children.
To your knowledge, does he have any child protective services record or background?
He does.
I have nothing further.
Underwood?
Mr. Cornack, I think there's been a little bit of confusion about what you saw versus what you didn't see. You indicated that you did see the cat firsthand, is that correct?
I did see the cat.
When did you go inside the home?
It was either the 16th or this. I believe it was the 17th.
Was it short, how long after the police went into the home did you go into the home?
I think it was less than 24 hours.
Okay. Was there still matter in coolers and bottles? Did you personally witness that?
No, I did not.
So had the home been cleaned up then between the time that the police were there and the time you
So
came?
between the time of the pictures and the time that I was there, the house was cleaner.
Okay.
When I was there.
Okay. But it's your testimony or your understanding that the photos that were taken were within 24 hours of when you made
So
contact?
I would have to check my records as far as when the police were there. I don't know what time they were there. And I don't remember what time of day I was there.
But it was within a very short period of time, within a day or two at the most?
I'm pretty comfortable in saying it was less than 24 hours.
I have no further questions.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Any recross? Gentlemen,
No,
thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
I have one question for Ms. Cornack, Mr. Cornack, if I can have him up there.
What? I just asked you.
I know you did, but it just occurred to me, Your Honor.
All right, well, you're still close enough to the microphone.
I got me on.
Agreed.
I tried to wait so you didn't go all the way back to your seat.
I appreciate that.
When you viewed the home,
Mhm.
was it suitable for children to be living?
It was borderline. I couldn't tell. So the problem was the house was raided. So I couldn't tell what was from, just, I don't know the right word.
Tearing things?
Yeah, I don't know what was from that and what the house was like prior to that. Because like the kids' bedrooms were okay. The living room was okay. I believe Mr. Johnson's room was in the back of the trailer, and that room wasn't accessible because the bed was on its side. It looked like it had been raided.
Let's say that, well, I believe Mr. Brooks will be able to introduce the photos. If it shows that the house is fine, would you then still request removal if the house was suitable? Now,
Yes.
if father were to take daily drug test or random test and the house was suitable, would you still request removal?
I would have to talk to my bosses about that.
That's not a decision you can make.
It would be a decision I'd be part of making.
Fair enough. Nothing further.
Any questions based on Mr. McFarland's questions?
no, I have no further questions. And if there are no other witnesses, I have witness of my own accord.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Mr. McFarland, do you have a witness?
Yes, Your Honor, my client will be very brief.
Very good. Deputy Ames, if you could swear in Ms. Malika Rumbert. Yes.
Can you hear me okay, Ms. Rumbert?
Yes,
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Malika, I'm stepping up here where you can see me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
You and I had a chat before court. Were you aware that we had to be in court today?
Yes.
Okay. What is your opinion? Do you want the kids to remain home with their father, or would you like them with the paternal, which means the father's dad, the grandfather, or would you want them someplace else? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I do. I would like the kids to be at home with their father. He's a really good father. And I just also want to state that whatever I have on my allegations don't go on his case too. But yeah, I do think that the kids should be at home with their father.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions.
Questions, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Underwood?
Ms. Rumbert, do the photos that were shown by Mr. Cornack concern you with the kitten and the fecal matter in the home and the condition of the home and the police rated it?
I wouldn't be able to speak on any of the photos that were shown because I wasn't there at the time. I was in jail.
If all of the photos were accurate representation of the condition of the home, would you be concerned with your children living in that type of environment?
I'm going to object to the question because it presumes facts, not evidence.
It's couched as a hypothetical question, so I can't grant the objection on that basis.
If they were the accurate, I don't really know how to feel about, I don't know, because I was in jail at the time, so I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know if the cat was there in the house. I don't know if it was an outside cat. I don't know what was actually found on the sheets, on the blankets. I don't know if that was actual fecal matter. I don't know. So.
But if it was, would that be concerning to you?
Yes, if it was.
All right, no further questions, thank you.
Ms. Rembert, you're coming to us from a rehabilitation facility now, is that right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, and how long have you been there?
I've been here for a week.
When were you arrested?
September 6th.
I know we've already had your adjudication, but at the time that you ended up in jail, were you using drugs?
Before I ended up in jail, yeah, I was using drugs. So I've been clean for quite some time now.
Good, that's good. What drugs were you using, if you don't mind me asking? All right, well, I'm glad to see that you're getting help for it. Thank you for answering my questions. I have to offer an opportunity to the other attorneys to answer any questions they may have based on my questions. Ms. Thomas.
Ms. Rumbert, prior to your incarceration, where were you staying?
I was staying at my apartment on Church Street.
Okay, so you were not living with Mr. Johnson?
No.
Okay, and are you currently pregnant?
Yes.
Is Mr. Johnson a potential father?
No.
Okay, thank you for that. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any other questions, Mr. McFarland?
Yes. Malika, from where you are, could you even see the photos that Mr. Cornack was holding
No,
up?
I could hardly see them. It's kind of blurry from where I'm my end. So no, I couldn't.
So do you think you can make an honest opinion without accurately seeing the photos?
No, I couldn't.
Nothing further.
Mr. Brooks, any questions?
Did you see the picture of the cat?
I could hardly see the cat.
I'll ask this question as a follow-up. Do you recognize that cat?
No, I don't.
Did you have a cat in the house when you lived there?
I object,
No,
Your Honor.
I
My client's
have- no.
testimony, I object, my client's testimony was she didn't live there, that she gave an address on Church Street, I believe.
Is that, which rule of evidence is that objection to be evaluated under?
Well, he's taking things out of context. He's saying when she lived there, that's not her testimony, that she lived there.
Thank you. The objection is overruled. You answer the question. She's kind of already answered it. Ms.
Well,
Weinberg,
yeah, what I really want to know is, do you recognize that cat?
No, I don't. I know.
It was never your cat.
No.
You don't know if it was an indoor or an outdoor cat.
No, I don't.
Do you even know whether or not it's Mr. Johnson's cat?
No, I don't know.
That's all.
Ms. Underwood, do you have any questions? I have no questions. No witnesses. Any other witnesses, Mr. McFarland?
No.
Mr. Brooks?
I'd like to recall Mr. Cornack.
Mr. Kornack, you're getting your steps in this
I
afternoon.
am.
Come on up.
I just like your pretty face.
I like yours too, Mike.
You remain under oath. Have a seat.
Slide that. So like face.
Mr. Cornack,
Yes,
are you familiar with a document called the DHHS Policy Manual?
the policy manual, yes.
There is a section in that policy manual dealing specifically with controlled substances. It's sections 8 or 9. Is that accurate or not?
I don't know the numbers, but
Would you agree it's there?
yeah, it's there.
The very first line on that paragraph says, and I quote, "The mere presence of controlled substances is not grounds for removal of children from the home." Have I misquoted it?
No,
Next question. What evidence of harm did you find those children were exposed to by what you presume was an accurate test of drug residues performed by the police?
well, my concerns would be that the police had bought drugs out of the home where the children were residing, that they found drugs in the home.
How is that different? Or how does that contradict or override, better word, the statement I just made to you from the first line of the Department of Human Services Policy Manual?
I'm just going to object to this categorization of a direct quote. Without a citation, there's no way for us to know whether it's accurate or not. I know that Mr. Cornack has agreed that that's what it says, but I'm not comfortable accepting that without further indication of a proper cite.
I don't know, she can object to her client's own testimony.
Well, I did give you a cite. It's chapter 8 or chapter 9 of the department's policy manual involving,
Do you know how many manuals the department has, Mr. Brooks?
I have them all.
Okay, well then can you please provide me a cite?
Chapter 8,
Of which manual?
I can't give you that, but I'm going to say if that's what we're gonna play here today, I want this rescheduled for when it was scheduled for originally, because I have the manual. I just didn't know I should bring it today. It says what I said it says. If she wants to keep that objection, that's fine, but I want an adjournment.
I've got Thursday morning available.
Your Honor, I don't think that there's grounds for adjournment. I'm simply asking for a cite so we can accurately ensure that whatever presentation or argument Mr. Brooks is going to make is appropriate. And if he wants to bring it up, then he should have had the citation for it already.
It's, it's not quite confined to that particular issue. I also know that Ms. Underwood has conflicts this afternoon. And we also have another case scheduled to begin this afternoon. So legitimately, we may have some additional things to consider in deciding whether or not we can accurately get through everything that needs to be sussed out this afternoon.
However, if I may, I can't stay for probably about another 15 minutes, but my take on just the argument or the objection here is that, again, you can apply the weight of the testimony to what Mr. Brooks is stating, and Mr. Cornack is saying, and again, also take into the totality of the circumstances which brought this case here, which is not just the presence of drugs when making your decision.
That's true too, Mr. Brooks. I have in fact had the court rules open to me for some time, which does certainly remind and guide all of us that it's about whether or not there is an actual risk of harm to the children. It isn't necessarily that they have been harmed, but if there is a significant risk of harm. And so that is what guides the court in making its decision today, rather than the citation to the department. So I would overrule your request for adjournment purely on that particular point itself, but reassure you that I remain focused on what the court rule directs me to.
May I continue?
We've got apparently, well, around 15 minutes is about good. Yes.
Would you agree with me that in order to remove children, there has to be an unreasonable risk of harm?
There has to be a risk of harm.
I can't hear you.
There has to be a risk of harm, correct.
An unreasonable risk of harm.
Unreasonable, correct.
The children, as far as you know, didn't test positive for drugs, probably weren't even tested.
Correct.
They didn't appear to have been physically harmed in any way, did they?
No.
Did they appear to be emotionally distressed aside from the police raid?
Aside from the police raid?
Yeah.
Well, I said no.
Oh, I didn't hear you say no. I'm
I
sorry.
apologize.
I apologize too. What harm? What unreasonable risk of harm?
Objection asked and answered.
No, it wasn't. What unreasonable risk of harm did you observe in those children in that home?
He does have the right to cross-examine using the same questions that were used in direct. So if you would like to review that with Mr. Cornack, he does have the opportunity to have to overrule your objection.
Could you restate the question?
What unreasonable risk of harm did you observe in those children the day or the night, as the case may be, when they were removed from my client's home?
My case is based on what law enforcement found in the home when the house was raided, plus the positive drug screen.
That's it.
Correct.
I have nothing further.
Right, Ms. Underwood,
No additional questions.
I have one question.
Ms. Thomas,
I have none, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland,
I didn't hear an answer, a direct answer to Mr. Brooks' question, is what unreasonable risk of harm do you personally view? Not reports or whatever, but what did you personally view?
What did I view? The cat. I did the drug screen, and those are the two. Yes.
And was the level of drugs in father's system enough to impair his ability to safely watch the children?
When I don't know that I can answer that. I don't
Fair
know
enough. Fair enough. Nothing further.
thank you for your testimony. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brooks, anyone else you'd like to hear from?
Stephen Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, come on up to our witness stand.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Just step
Mr. Johnson, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
A week or two ago, your 3 children were removed from your home, is that right?
Yes,
And that was as a result of a police raid
yes,
on your home?
yes,
You've seen the photographs, which we've objected to and been overruled. But you've seen the photographs showing little pieces of white paper, which they say have residues of drugs on them. Did you see those little pieces of white paper too?
no, I have no knowledge of what was found or
All right.
recovered.
You've also seen the pictures of the house.
Yes, today, yes,
Your house was, the word I heard used once or twice was quote, raided. How would you describe the home? Or the presence of the police?
to what specifics, please?
You're gonna have to speak up, sir.
To
Your
what-
lawyer's an old man and I don't hear.
I'm sorry, to what specifics are you concerning to? Because that can be different scenarios as far as visual or the drug raid part, police part, the living conditions are you going towards?
Did they tear up your apartment or your house to any significant extent?
Yes,
Flip over furniture, open drawers, dump them out?
yes. Trash, everything.
The pictures that were taken, were they, that were submitted by the prosecutor, or by the DHHS lawyer, were those taken after the raid?
No,
They were taken before the police came?
no,
Maybe you don't understand my question. You've seen the pictures. May he see those pictures, Your Honor?
Witness has the exhibit.
yes, I'm familiar with the photos.
Did the police cause any of that mess?
Yes, if that's what you're asking, because a lot of the things that I see placed in the photographs were not in particular areas of the home which were taken on the photos, no.
When they entered your home, where you were there and your 3 children were there,
Yes,
was
sir.
that the condition of the of your home?
Not at all.
Would you, now, at my request, instruction really, I told you to clean up the mess that's there, didn't I?
Yes, yes,
You took pictures also at my request, didn't you?
yes, sir.
Did you bring them with you today?
Yes, I did.
And to the best of your knowledge, they have been shown to the opposition, is that correct?
I believe so. Yes,
Where are they right now?
they're on your desk, I believe. I didn't grab them on my way.
Sir,
Who took those pictures?
I took these photos.
When did you take them?
I took them on 11/7/24.
At the time those photos were taken, did they accurately reflect the images which are depicted on each of those pictures?
Yes,
And where have those pictures been since you took them? The document's actually in your hands,
oh, they've been with me waiting to get to court.
nobody else.
No, sir.
I move for the introduction of, I think, 1 through 14, or A through Z, or whatever it would be.
Objections?
No objections.
No objections.
Thank you. I will receive those as well.
thank you, sir.
So are you finished with the exhibit with Mr. Johnson?
I am.
All right, thank you. I'd like to receive that one back as well. All right, so I now have to the bench the 14 photos from Exhibit A, as well as the original photos from Department under Exhibit 1.
Have your kids ever been in the DHS, have they ever been removed from your home before?
No,
How old are they?
4, 3, and 1.
But for this intervention by the local police, have they ever been taken by anybody else, any custody fights or anything like that?
Never had any child removed from me.
Have they always been under your care?
Yes. No.
Well, I don't mean overnight babysitting or something. Is there anything else you want this court to know?
Just one thing regarding the photos that was taken at the the photos that are placed in by the opposition was photos of my house up under reconstruction at the time, and that's why it appears to be different than the current photos, because like I explained, it was under reconstruction. We were doing a lot of work. It's a rental property, and they caught it in the middle of the house looking like that.
If this judge walked into your mobile home right now, would it look like the first set of pictures or the second set?
Second set.
That's all.
Questions, Ms. Thomas?
Mr. Johnson, at the time the police went into your home on October 16th, what reason did you give them that there was urine and matter in coolers and all over the place? What was the reason you gave them?
Well, I didn't give any reasons, because I didn't give any statements. I didn't talk to the police. I was in handcuffs, detained inside of the car while they performed the search. I didn't have no visual search.
So, Mr. Johnson, I'm reviewing a police report today, and I didn't intend to admit this, but since you're here, it states, Stephen said that no matter and urine located in the residence were not his or his children. You didn't say that?
Yeah, because I don't use the bathroom in the cooler, so of course it's not mine. Whatever they found obviously wasn't mine. If I had it, I don't know, it wasn't mine, that's all I know. It wasn't my kids, because we don't perform our hygiene like that. We have bathrooms, we don't need to do anything like that. So of course I stated that at least. It also states on there I was confused on what he was even talking about.
So you're familiar with the police report?
Well, I haven't seen a police report. I'm just familiar with me being confused.
Okay. So matter and urine were inside of a cooler that was in your room near your bed, and your phone was in it, and you don't remember seeing matter or urine in that cooler?
I have no reason to have urine myself in a cooler. Like, that's what you're asking. And I would never have my phone inside of a cooler full of pee and poop. Phones are too expensive.
Your Honor, for purpose of impeachment, I'm going to ask the court to accept this police report.
I'm going to object. It is not clear to me to what extent the chaos documented in that police report, and actually by those photos, was pre-existing before the police entered the place. For example, counsel's just been asking questions about an ice chest on the bed with matter in it. How did you didn't notice a ice chest with matter on your bed? Well, maybe not. Maybe that was placed there by the police in doing what I assume was a pretty thorough search of his home. And if that's the case, I object to the police report if it attempts to describe in detail the chaotic condition of his home.
We have hit our 15-minute mark, and I think the police report is pretty relevant. The reason that we're here today is because the police raided Mr. Johnson's home. I would like to give Mr. Brooks, Mr. McFarland, and Ms. Underwood a chance to look through that police report as well, especially Mr. Brooks, in case there are any questions and he wants his client to carefully navigate for purposes of the removal hearing, obviously without compromising any of his Fifth Amendment rights on anything else. But that's why we're here, is because I have to decide whether or not there's a substantial risk of harm associated with allowing the children to return to the home. And I also understand this has been balanced by a safety plan that's been in place. I have some time to continue this to Thursday at 9 o'clock.
When we were originally scheduled, if I am not mistaken. Is that right?
It was one of the times we talked about.
Thursday at 9.
Question, Your Honor, on your comments. Are you saying that the police report has already been introduced? Did I missed that? Or are you saying that it should be presented to all attorneys before next time?
Mr. Brooks has had a chance to lodge his initial objections. I don't think everybody else has a copy. True or false, Ms. Thomas?
Your Honor, that is correct. I didn't have a copy either until just right now, because typically police reports are not admissible, but for purposes of impeachment, I plan on using it, and so I will provide a copy to the attorneys of record as soon as possible.
Well, and for purposes of the preliminary hearing, the rules of evidence do not apply. So it would be something that I would take a look at, obviously understanding that the weight is questionable. It's a police report, it's got layers of hearsay within it, but it is something.
And I will email counsel a copy of the relevant portion of the DHS policy manual that I've discussed here today.
Very good. So understanding that obviously there will be some hearsay objections, do you have any other objections to the police report? Understanding we'll give you an opportunity to cross-examine on Thursday, Mr. Brooks.
No, I have nothing.
Mr. McFarland.
Unknown, Your Honor. I haven't had time to explore that issue.
Ms. Underwood.
I have no objections.
Very good. All right, I'm gonna receive a copy of that as well. If you would please circulate that, Ms. Thomas, to everyone. I didn't have a chance to look at it before we come back Thursday. I'm not gonna make any rulings in the interim, and I'll see you all Thursday morning. We can maybe put together a copy for everybody before they go.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
I know it's this attorney's job, but first, he's a complete bully. And second, he's fighting really hard to keep some of the photos, especially, out of the hearing. And I just wonder if this attorney, if this was his children were in these conditions, or his grandchildren were in these conditions, what would he say then? Because I know he's fighting really hard for this, his client, but you know, what about the kids? Someone should be fighting for them, and I think the judge is, but I just wonder, is it okay for his kids or his grandchildren to live in conditions like this? I just, you know, that always pops into my head. Like, what would the attorney think if the roles were reversed and this was happening to his family and these were his grandchildren? What would he think then? And it's very odd that the mother is kind of removed from it. You know, I know she's in rehab, but in therapy, but if you knew your kids were in these kind of conditions, wouldn't you want them with, like, the grandfather that's not doing these things, doesn't have police, you know, storming through the house and stuff like that? I mean, wouldn't you want your kids to be a little safer, especially if there's some kind of sale of merchandise going on? I mean, that's extremely dangerous to be around kids. So I just think it's really weird that the parents are unconcerned about the stuff that the police found. Especially mom. These are her kids. She didn't care. Let them stay with dad. That's where they should be. Okay. Anyway, I'll try to catch the one on Thursday, I think they said. That's tomorrow. Is tomorrow Thursday? I've lost track of days. I think tomorrow is Thursday. Anyway, I'll try to catch the next hearing and see if it's any good. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.